Importance of resource status keeping on an incident. The effective management of tactical resources is a vital consideration. The ability to select the right resource for the task to be done is essential to properly accomplish a job, ensure resource safety, and be cost effective. Maintaining status of all resources assigned to the incident is an important aspect of resource management. A tactical resource, such as a helicopter, will have a variety of capabilities and uses. It is obvious not enough to just order a helicopter. For this reason, it is strongly recommended that the various kinds of resources used within ICS be typed whenever possible. In addition, not all tactical resources at an incident may be usable at any given time. For a variety of reasons, some resources may be temporarily out of service or placed into an available, ready, but not assigned status. Definitions of resources. In the ICS application, tactical resources consist of all personnel and major items of equipment available for potentially and be available for assignments to incidences. Equipment resources will include the personnel required to operate and staff them. The kinds of resources describes what the resource is. Examples: patrol vehicle, helicopter, fire engine, oil skimmer vessel, bulldozer, plows, etc. The kinds of resources can be as broad as necessary to suit the incident application. Some of the same kinds of tactical resources may be used by different agencies on a wide variety of incidences. For example, both police and fire departments will often use helicopters, fuel tenders, and crew transports. Other kinds of resources, patrol vehicles, search dogs, or fire engines, are specific to the user's agency and to the applicational area. The types of resources describes a performance capability for the kind of resource. For example, in California Fire Service Field Operating Guide, a Type 1 helicopter will carry up to 16 persons, where a Type 3 helicopter will carry up to 5. Resources are usually typed by number, with 1 being the highest, 2 being the next highest. However, a higher capacity does not necessarily mean it is the right resource for the job. An example of this would be a Type 1 engine, which has the highest pumping capacity but cannot make access to the rough terrain of a wildland fire. Specific capabilities of resources must always be clearly spelled out in the type of description. There are 3 distinct advantages to typing resources. In planning, knowing the specific capability of the various kinds of resources helps planners decide the type and quantity of resources best suited to perform activities required by the incident action plan. In ordering resources by type saves time, minimizes error, gives a clear indication of exactly what is needed, and reduces the non-essential communication between the incident and the off-site ordering point. In monitoring, resources use an awareness of type of tactical resource assignments enables the manager to monitor for under or over capability and make changes accordingly. Careful monitoring of resource performance can lead to the use of smaller or less costly resources, which can result in increased work performance and reduced cost. While resources typing is a good idea, there are only a few typing standards currently available nationally, and these are primarily in the wildland service. Typing is recommended as a goal for the future for law enforcement, public works, water utilities, and other agencies who consistently deploy special kinds of resources. At a minimum, there should be a standard typing system on a statewide basis to facilitate ordering of mutual aid equipment. There are 3 ways of using resources on an incident: a single resource, a task force, a strike team, squad, platoons. Each of these has certain features. Single resources are individual pieces of equipment, crew of individuals with an identified work supervisor that can be used in tactical applications on an incident. A single resource is often the most common way of initially using resources on the incident. Single resources can be typed to reflect capability. Unless a single resource is typed, its specific resource capability may not be clear to everyone. Some examples are police motorcycle unit, fire engine company, medical team, helicopter, search dogs. Task forces are any combination and number of single resources within the span of control limits assembled for a particular tactical need. Task forces may be mixed of all different kinds of resources, be of the same kind but different types, or be several resources of one kind mixed with other resources. Requirements for a task force: must have a leader, must have communications between resources and the leader and from the leader to the next level supervisor, must have transportation as required, and must be within the span of control limits. Listed are some examples of how agencies may organize task forces. A public works task force might be 2 bulldozers, 2 dump trucks. A fire task force may be 2 engines, a bulldozer, and 2 hand crews. A search and rescue task force might be 1 helicopter, 1 alpine search and rescue team, and 1 medical technician. An oil spill task force might be 5 breathing food ships, 10 work boats, 1 tank barge, and 4 skimming vessels. Law enforcement task force would be 1 SWAT team, 1 K-9 team, 1 fire engine, and 1 ambulance. And multi-agency task force might be 2 patrol vehicles, 5 engines, and 3 medical units. The term strike team was developed by the fire service in the original ICS design. The term does not always fit other applications, but the concept of the use of teams certainly does. This concept is also used in the formation of squads and platoons in other disciplines. Requirements for a strike team: all resources must be of the same kind and type, must have a leader, must have communications between the resources and the leader, must have transportation as needed, and must operate within a span of control limits. Example of a nationally recognized strike team: 5 fire engines type 1 or 3 type 2 bulldozers. Strike teams have proven to be very valuable for the use in large wildland incidences. In some kinds of incidences, strike teams are regularly used for managing engines, hand crews, and bulldozers. The use of strike teams in other application areas is more limited. A requirement for all task force and strike team leaders is that they must have a leader and common communications. Depending upon the level of organization established for the incident, task force and strike team leaders will report to the incident commander, the operational section chief, or to a division or group supervisor. There's an advantage of using a task force and strike team. One is it enables more effective resource use planning, provides an effective way of quickly ordering just what is necessary, reduces radio traffic by communications going to a task force or strike team leader rather than to each of the single resources, increases the ability to expand the organization for large incident operations while maintaining good span of control, and provides close resource control and accountability. There is a status that each resource must be in. There are 3 of them. One is assigned, resources working on a tactical assignment under the direction of a supervisor; available, resources ready for deployment; and 3, out of service, resources that are not ready for availability or assignment status. Reasons for being out of service could be mechanical, personnel need rest. In addition, some situation resources could be out of service for environmental reasons, darkness, weather; financial, exceeded allowed overtime costs. Resources can go out of service during an active assignment for mechanical or staffing reasons. Usually, resources of out of service for other reasons will be located at an incident base or at a camp if these facilities have been established. Changing resource status. Resource status on an incident is maintained and changed by the supervisor who has the resources under assignment. On large incidences, a resource unit, if established, will also maintain status on all resources assigned to the incident. Resource status unit will, not on its own authority, change the status of resources. All changes in the status that last for more than a few minutes must be communicated to the appropriate organizational elements. The flow chart shows how the resources status changes are made through a major incident organization. The individual who makes the status change is responsible to make sure the change is communicated to the person or unit responsible for maintaining overall resource status at the incident. Depending on the levels of activation within the incident organization, changes in resource status may be made by the incident commander, operational section chief, division or group supervisors. Information about the status change will be passed to the resource unit of the Planning Intelligence section. Normally, persons who can change status of resources on an incident could include the person in charge of a single resource, a task force or strike team leader, a division or group supervisor, the operational section chief or incident commander. Resource status keeping systems. There are several status keeping methods or systems which can be used to keep track of resources and incidences. There's the manual record keeping on forms. The ICS provides many forms to keep track of the resources. Some examples are the initial attack form 201, the check-in list, which is form 211, and the assignment list for divisions, form 204. There is the card system. Several methods are available which allow for maintaining status of resources on cards. One of these systems has different colored T-shaped cards for each kind of resource. The cards are formatted to record various kinds of information about the resource. The cards are filed in a rack by current location. Magnetic symbols on maps or status boards. Magnetic symbols or icons are sometimes used. These can be prepared in different shapes, sizes, colors, with space to pencil in resource designators. The symbols are placed on maps or on boards which have locations designated to match the incident. Computer system. A laptop computer can be used with a simple file management or spreadsheet program to maintain information on resources. These systems can be used to compile check-in information and then be maintained to reflect current status.